That's Clinic from their album Internal Wrangler. This is WFMU. My name's Erwin Chusid. I'm a disc jockey at WFMU in Jersey City, New Jersey. It's a free-form, non-commercial station. Part of being a disc jockey on a station that plays strange sounds is we often get submissions from listeners, people who say, hey, here's something you haven't heard before. A fellow up in Canada named Brian Linz had been emailing me for a while, and he had said he was going to be sending me some things on a CDR.
I knew of Erwin because of his radio show at WFMU, and I had a radio show in Victoria. I go around to thrift stores, secondhand stores. I go to flea markets. I let people know that I'm looking for records. I was in Vancouver on a thrift fact-finding mission, I guess, looking for new records to play. And I came upon the SPCA thrift store. And there was this record of a bunch of school kids staring me in the face. This record had Rhiannon by Fleetwood Mac, it had Beach Boys songs, it had Herman's Hermits songs, and it had Space Oddity by David Bowie. And I went, yeah, I gotta have this record.
Ground control to Major Tom.
I sent him David Bowie's Space Oddity.
I heard this and I was stunned because it was an arrangement I'd never heard before. It was probably from the 1970s. It sounded like it was recorded by some strange cult of youngsters who were gathered somewhere in a dungeon late at night and singing this song as part of some ritualistic ceremony. So I asked Brian, did he have anything else by this group?
So I sent him the whole album.
I heard this and I said, what a charming sound. It really resonated with me in a beautiful way.
Some of the songs were making the playlist of WFMU. He was passing it around to the other disc jockeys.
Judging from the emails, judging from the phone calls, I seem to have discovered something that had such a fresh sound. And I determined that this thing had to come out commercially. And I had to find who was responsible. I went on the internet and plugged in whatever names I had from the LP cover. I couldn't find anything for Hans Fenger on the internet, but I did find the schools. And they were in a region called Langley in British Columbia. And I found the phone numbers and names of some administrators. I started calling these people. Finally, the fifth or sixth person I spoke to put me in touch with Hans.
Actually, what had happened is I was at school. The secretary left a message and said there was somebody from New York that was trying to phone me. I phoned the number and I introduced myself and I said, I understand you've been trying to get hold of me and who are you?
I wouldn't say he was suspicious. He was curious.
Erwin said, oh, you're the person who made the Langley album. And at first I had to stop and think for a second. I went, Langley album. Am I being sued by David Bowie? What is happening? You know?
I told Hans I wanted to release this commercially because I thought it was just a fascinating musical document.
I was a little bit taken aback. You know, I didn't really know what to say. But there was also a part of it to me that always felt like this is music only a mother could love, you know. The record was recorded in 1978. To do the actual recording was, I guess, about 50 minutes. There was approximately 110 kids. It went directly from tape to vinyl, so there was no mixing of music.
I pitched it to 10 labels, and every single one of them turned it down. I was very, very discouraged and thought, I'd failed. I'm not going to find a North American label. Well, I went to Bar None.
We like to think that Bar None Records is afraid of no genre, that we'll go anywhere as long as the songwriting is strong and maybe the approach is innovative. Erwin explained the record to me, and just conceptually it sounded really interesting. He came by the next day and played the record for me.
And everyone in the office just stopped working and just sat there shaking their heads, listening to this. And then finally, after 15 minutes of listening, said, we want to do this.
The Langley School project is about as real as you can get. I mean, it's a microphone in a gymnasium in Canada. It's 1978, bottled for all time.
Langley has just been an enormous success for Bar None. It's probably sold more in any 1 week than any other bar none title. Amazon was one of the first to really recognize that people were going to relate to this record. They put in a big initial order, so they really got behind it, and they kept it at a top 10 record for close to a month. Was the #1 reissue of the year in Entertainment Weekly, top 10 in Spin. The New Yorker did a fantastic piece, #1 editor's pick in Pulse magazine. It's the #1 article in the New York Times magazine. The Washington Post really caught the essence of the project when they said Langley School's music project is the sound of falling in love with music. Richard Carpenter has had really nice things to say about the record, and David Bowie has popped his head up a couple times expressing interest in the record.
David Bowie heard Space Oddity, and he said that the backing arrangement is astounding. You have a piece of art that I couldn't have conceived of, so obviously he was very impressed by the arrangement.
When Irwin contacted me originally about David Bowie's reaction, I was flabbergasted.
I've had punk rockers call me up from on tour in a van saying, we were listening to Metallica and then we switched to the Langley School and we were all like crying in the van. We had to pull over, or grandmothers saying what a wonderful thing. That it just seems to be hitting everybody on a very gut level.
To have this kind of response, it's a little like having your grade 5 homework suddenly become a bestseller. To think that something that you could do at that point of your life with really no expectation, and there was no expectation at all. I didn't make it for money, I didn't make it for art, I didn't make it for anything. I just made it for fun.